from the beginning of the 90s, I've been working on the possibility of a virus being involved in the pathogenesis of breast cancer in humans. We have found that in 40% of the human breast cancers, there are sequences, the imprint of a virus that in mice cause tumor in the mammary gland. We were able to isolate this virus and also to infect human mammary cells, normal human mammary cells that become infected. Now, our next step is to prove that this virus can really produce cancer cells.
And I started working on the mouse mammary tumor virus almost 30 years ago at the Sloan Kettering Institute. Started looking at the mouse. I was very interested to find out how this virus could be causing tumors in the mouse, and studied that for many, many years, learning a lot about how the virus functioned to actually cause the tumors, a lot of information. And then our lab was the second to really see this virus in human breast tumors. And then I've been pursuing that goal ever since, of trying to understand if what we've learned in the mouse could be transferred to the human in terms of causing breast tumors. I think the biggest surprise was when we actually saw it in the human breast tumors, because I had heard a talk by Dr. Pogo, and the audience was not receptive to what she was saying. This was in 1995 in terms of a mouse virus actually causing a human disease in terms of cancer. And I had gone back to my lab. I told Dr. Pogo, because I had been already working on the human breast tumors, and I had a number of them, and I said to her, I'm going to take a look. And I did take a look, and there it was, just exactly what she said. So it was very, very exciting to see that virus right there and know that what she had been saying was absolutely true. We found 37% of the breast tumors that we looked at, and these were American women, the percent that we looked at, were positive. Dr. Pogo initially reported 38.5%, so we were right in the ballpark of what she was talking about. What was even extremely interesting also was that we had a number of our patients who had been diagnosed with both breast cancer and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and we decided to look in both malignancies. And when we did, we found that in all of the patients that had the virus in their breast tumors, they also had it in the lymphoma tissue. And all of these patients had been diagnosed with breast cancer either first, before the lymphoma, or at the same time. And the reason that that's extremely interesting is that in the mouse, in the females, the virus causes the breast cancer, but in the males, many of them develop lymphoma. So now we were seeing the virus causing the two diseases that it caused in the mouse involved with the same two diseases in human tissue, which was very exciting. For me, it's trying to understand the mechanism of how the virus is functioning. There's been a lot of evidence recently that have implicated mouse viruses in human disease, which is very positive for what we're studying, because there was always a lot of criticism for the idea of how could a mouse virus really be causing a human disease. But now, in addition to MMTV being involved in human breast cancer, it's also been reported to be involved in primary biliary cirrhosis, which is a liver disease, and also in a certain number of prostate cancer patients, a virus designated as XMRV, which is a mouse virus that causes leukemia in mice, has been found in a number of prostate cancer patients. And very recently, the same mouse virus, the XMRV, has been reported in the blood of patients suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome. Just the idea for so many years until very, very recently, until maybe only the past year or so, the question, as we said, of a mouse virus infecting a human and causing the disease was just not believed. People really didn't think this. And when you applied for grants, whenever I applied for a grant, always the question came back, a mouse virus infecting humans. And for many years in the laboratory, it was difficult to show that this virus, especially MMTV, could infect human cells. But now that this has been shown, and as we said, that other diseases are coming forward that are caused by mouse viruses, now I think this research is going to come along a lot faster, and hopefully there's going to be some funding for this research now. Once we knew the virus is really doing this, there could be a vaccine possibly against the virus, or if we can understand the mechanism, such as we know that there's an envelope protein on the outside of the mouse virus. We know that that protein by itself, put into human breast tumor cells, can start the tumorigenic process. Okay? We know the mechanisms by which that protein works in the mouse. It's also mechanisms that we've seen in other tumors, okay, the enzymes that it uses. What we'd like to do right now is, we've seen this protein in human breast tumors. If we can take that protein out of the human breast tumors and show that it functions the way it does in the mouse, that it really can cause tumors by itself, we could immunize against that protein, a vaccine against the protein, or we could understand the mechanism and make drugs that could cut off that mechanism.
I'm wondering where the money goes for breast cancer when you donate, and if it's going to the best place and what is happening with it.
Money that I would get from my laboratory would be, first of all, probably for tissue culture, trying to grow the virus that I would need to look at. It would be used for the polymerase chain reaction results so that I can pick out the DNA that's in these tumors. And then it would be looked at to look at the mechanism. So I would have to have materials in which I could take the protein out, which I could be able to reinfect the protein, have to look at what the protein is doing. So, you know, really basic questions that the money's looked at. And it's an equipment, of course, for the lab, although our lab is pretty well equipped, but every day you need additional tubes and whatever. But none of the money, I have to say, is ever wasted. I mean, the salaries that scientists get are really nil, you know, and the money really is put into the lab. Work gets done. I mean, the hospital, of course, gets an overhead, but most of this money goes right into laboratory work. What I think about the Pink Virus Project is that it's extraordinary. I think it's exactly what our field needed. We needed somebody strong like Dr. Ruddy to really believe in us and to really help us to get funding to really look at this work now. I think the work is really coming into its own now. It's suffered badly over the past, say, 10 or 15 years because it really was not given the money that it deserved. And I think now, through this project, we're really getting recognition and people are starting to understand that there really is a very big chance that a virus may be involved in human breast cancer. The biggest challenge for this research right now is to be accepted by the scientific community. I think the scientific community must realize that mouse viruses are playing a role, I think, in human breast cancer. And if they are, if they're not, I think they really have to look into this, to give them money so that it can really be looked at, the question, and decided what's really going on. But I think not to give them money and not to have labs be able to look at this question is really a disaster, because I think it's more and more data is coming out showing that these mouse viruses are there, and I think that they're involved in human disease.
They are very enthusiastic about their research, and they feel that they're actually getting very close to being able to answer this question. I would hope that they would receive the kind of funding and support that they need to complete their work. If breast cancer really is the #1 priority for women, as I know that it is, and if there is a lot of money being spent on breast cancer research, and there is millions of dollars, then I think that these researchers really deserve to have their work funded, because so much is at stake in getting this question answered.
If there's a way that women can beat this disease, it's important that they take every opportunity to learn about it and do whatever is necessary to help the researchers and the doctors find out the reason for it.
Continuing funding for breast cancer research is, I think, the next step to getting conclusive evidence and getting what the researchers need to present their findings and to move forward with the cure. And I really do feel as if funding is out there. I think it's really important to get the message out, let everyone know, you know, what Dr. Ruddy and what others are doing in terms of researching breast cancer and getting closer to that cure, getting closer to better treatments.
Absolutely. I definitely believe that. If there's a way to find out a cure, that we should investigate and research.
If it were true that a virus causes breast cancer, that would really revolutionize the treatment.
Yes, I think the question of a virus causing breast cancer should be answered.
Yes, this question should definitely be answered.
Yes, we should answer the question.